Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Zone Blitz. As always, I'm Vince Miller, joined by my co-host Ashton Overhaul. Bit of an off-season, not really off-season, kind of a pre-bowl season pod here. Pre-signing day, not just a ton going on, but there are things to talk about. Instead of previewing all the bowls, we decided we're just gonna go list each of our top 10 bowl games to watch. Ashton, was that a difficult exercise for you, or do you feel like there was a pretty clear 10 for you to narrow it down to?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a pretty clear 10. I mean, obviously you have your playoff games. Like those
Yeah.
matter. I mean, yeah, just as much as it can't matter more than a playoff game. I mean, those are going to be probably two of the most watched games just of football. Maybe not even college football, just of football this year. Like those those will do really good numbers. But yeah, there's a lot of good ones that kind of pop up. I think the one that you see right away that is the next big game is Tennessee Clemson, just because of certain comments that Dabo made about flipping burgers, or Tennessee fans were flipping. I'm not sure. Something was said between Dabo and Tennessee. I know there's some disrespect, or some people feel disrespected, and these are just two good football teams too. So it's going to be. I think it'll be interesting. So yeah, the Orange Bowl is kind of the one after the playoff games. That is, I really feel like we need to watch that one. Like, who knows what's going to happen there.
Yeah, it feels like there, no matter what happens, there will be things to talk about all off season from that game. Like, one of the fan bases will be overly worried, probably, or justifying things or whatever. Like, there's going to be things happening that that we can take away from that game. That's definitely on my list. And like you mentioned, the playoff games. Well, maybe we should just jump into those just real quick. Ohio State, Georgia.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? We're getting closer to the game. How are you feeling as a Georgia fan here?
Yeah, we've had like a week now to kind of just let it sit there, kind of marinate a little bit on the matchup, and just see how we feel about everything. Jackson Smith and Jimbo not playing for Ohio State is big. I mean, that's a game changer. That's potentially if they would have him and Harrison going at full speed. Like, we don't know if it's full speed, but if he would have been going at full speed, that would have been really scary as anyone, like not just Georgia, just as anyone in the country. That's just a scary thing, but he's not. So it does feel like I feel better. Like a weekend, I feel better now. The spread is 6.5 points. So right under that touchdown mark. Vegas does not want you to get Georgia cheap. That's evident. Now, we'll just say this: where would that line be had Ohio State not even played Michigan? Like, had that game not even existed? like what's that line? You tell me.
Maybe Georgia minus 2.5. Does that sound about right?
That's exactly the number I came up with. 2.5 under a field goal. And 60 minutes accounts for that much of a difference. Like, I guess maybe so, but I not betting on this game. Like, just kind of staying away from it, just keeping your eye on it. It's going to be a really entertaining game. They gave it the late window, so it's going to be the 8 o'clock game on ESPN. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As a Georgia fan, kind of feel like we have nothing to lose. This is going to sound crazy. There is more pressure on Ryan Day than there is on Kirby Smart to win this game. And that doesn't, I know Georgia's the number 1 seed. Ryan Day cannot get blown out in this game. That absolutely cannot happen. I think there's more pressure on Ohio State to at least keep this close, if not win, than there is on Georgia.
No, I would agree. I would definitely agree with all of that. There's so many outcomes I could see in this game. And you break it down big Georgia win, close Ohio State win, big Ohio State win. I think the least likely is a big Ohio State win. But even that, I could see a world where Stroud just goes bananas to those receivers and they get a couple turnovers and it gets ugly. I could very much
Sure.
see more likely than that. I would see Georgia winning close. Like to me, that feels like the most likely of kind of those four outcomes. But
Yeah.
I really do think it's a game where anything could happen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think so as well. I think there was a lot of talk out there. Ohio State kind of felt like they gave their best shot to Michigan. I mean they
Yeah.
did. Like they talked all year about how like we're gonna like that's the one like we're gonna beat Michigan. That's like we will beat Michigan. That's all they talked about.
Hmm.
And then you didn't like do they have two best shots? Like I guess maybe that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like was that their best shot and do they go downhill from there? Those guys haven't played a single not one play of football since Donovan Edwards was running all over them in the fourth quarter. That was like that's the last bit of football they played. Michigan and Georgia have gotten conference championships. They've gotten hardware. They've had wins since then. Ohio State just sat there with that, just that bad taste lingering there. Do they quit? Like, do they show up and do they have the gear that they thought they were going to hit for Michigan, like this fifth, sixth gear that everyone talks about that Ohio State allegedly has, but never seems to get to right now? So maybe they do. Maybe we tune in and maybe they actually do find it on New Year's Eve. It does feel close. I think the game is close. I think Georgia wins by a touchdown. For me, that feels right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's right on. I have no issue with it.
All right. What about the other playoff game? You have TCU and Michigan. Michigan kind of feels like Georgia Junior, and TCU is the plucky underdog story who with an
Sure,
explosive offense. Like, is that an oversimplification? Yeah, it is. I'll answer my own question. That's an oversimplification. That
sure.
said, like, what do you see in this game? What are the looking at kind of the same way of looking at it? Like, what are the of the four potential outcomes? Do you think any of the four could happen, and what's most likely in your mind?
Yeah. I think TCU keeps this game really close. I think
Okay.
this game is very competitive. TCU could beat them possibly. Michigan's the favorite. Michigan deserves to be the favorite.
Hmm.
But I think there's a better chance TCU beats Michigan than Ohio State beats Georgia. I think there's a better chance of that. I like what they do offensively. I mean, how could you not? Like you have to really like what they do offensively. Is Michigan going to be able to run the football and be just completely dominate TCU? Are they going to be able to? I think for me that's the question. If they can blow TCU off the ball on the offensive line, they will win and they will win handily. I think TCU keeps this one closer than what most people think. I don't know if they'll win outright. Again, Michigan's the favorite and deserve to be. So I would take Michigan still, Michigan close.
Hmm.
But there's a little bit too much of TCU's been called an underdog just a little bit too much. They're undefeated and undefeated for a reason, and they beat good teams to get there. Like they beat a lot of really good football teams. Well, sorry, I guess not undefeated anymore. They had a regular season that was undefeated.
Hmm.
They beat good teams to go 12-0 and make it to your conference championship. I kind of like him. I think it's close. I think there's more to TCU any at this point than just the plucky underdog that has a good quarterback. Like
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah, I would view this very much coming down to TCU's offense against Michigan's defense, that matchup. I
yeah,
don't think TCU will hold Michigan below a certain number of points. Like Michigan will score on
right,
TCU. We've seen, I don't know, in three-fourths of their games this year, them really just be explosive and put up
yeah,
big points. They've also had a few games where they had to win a little bit ugly, and they
mm-hmm,
weren't able to score quite as
sure,
easily. If it
sure,
gets into kind of a shootout, I think I do trust Max Duggan a little bit more than JJ McCarthy. Just as far as like
sure,
making that interception where in a bad spot, like that, it
absolutely,
does feel like that would be more of a McCarthy's thing. I don't think TCU is going to stop Michigan, but if they're able to score, get it into a shootout
right,
type of game, I could absolutely see them winning the game.
yeah,
Again, kind of like the Georgia game, I would pick Michigan close. That would be my most likely outcome, I think.
yeah. I'm with you though on the like anything could happen.
Yeah.
Like any of the results could happen in any of these games. I don't think it's not it's not Alabama Cincinnati from last year where you kind of knew like you kind of knew what was going to happen. Cincinnati was not going to blow out Alabama. Like that was just not an
Right.
option. But with Max Duggan and CJ Stroud as the quarterbacks of the underdog teams,
Hmm.
you would say, well, they at least have a puncher's chance of blowing the other team out if it all clicks. So I do like the quarterback play. It's really good quarterbacks. Like all four of them are just really good quarterbacks that made the playoff this year. So yeah, anything could happen. I think there'll be closer games. I think we'll get some closer playoff games. We haven't had close playoff games in a while. Like it's been a lot of blowouts that we've had recently in the first couple playoff games. I think this will stay. I think they could stay close. I really think it feels like with that level of quarterbacks that we deserve some close games.
Yeah.
Like it feels like a nice, let's have like a 45-42 game, instead of just the bloodbaths that we've gotten recently.
Right.
So I'm certainly rooting just as a casual fan of Michigan or TCU. Like I'd like to see that one stay close.
Sure. Okay, so we've mentioned 3 games so far. I'm assuming we both have those 3 on our list of 10 to watch. What
Sure.
what else do you have, Ashton?
Okay, so Alabama, Kansas State. I guess we'll watch that one. Hopefully, Bryce Young plays. Like he hasn't opted out yet. That's a good football game. Utah, Penn State. I think is really interesting. The Rose Bowl. I mean, that's obviously just an incredible place to play. Penn State's jerseys in the Rose Bowl look really good for me. I like that look. Somehow in like that lighting, it hits just a little bit different. Utah, Penn State. I think it'll be this is Utah's second year that I guess they lost to Ohio State there last year. Get another Big Ten team this year. So I think that one's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I like Notre Dame, South Carolina. Kind of up and coming teams, young coaches that are just kind of getting there. These are 2 teams that really need these bowl practices. And I mean, covet them. Like they really are looking. This was always, both of these teams are building to next year. Like they're building for next year, building for later. But the winner has a good feel going into the offseason, especially if it's South Carolina. Like that's what they want. They've had a good year to this point. Texas, Washington is interesting. Just to see the quarterbacks again. You love watching 2 really good quarterbacks go at it. Ewers versus Penix is fun, no doubt. That's a fun one. I like Oregon, North Carolina. Again, talking about quarterback battles, kind of a sucker for it. Bo Nix versus Drake May. Yeah, like I'll absolutely be watching that one December 28th. After that, it gets a little fuzzy. It starts to get a little bit fuzzy.
Sure.
I'm going to pull the trigger on Iowa versus Kentucky.
Okay.
The first one to 3 scores wins. So if you score 17 points, you win, and you might not even need 17. That's kind of how it goes with those 2 schools. So I know we have Will Levis, and I understand that he's flying up the draft boards, and he will probably be going in the top 5 come April.
Do you think he'll play in this game?
Probably. I mean, probably.
Why would he against Iowa's defense when he's already being projected to be in the top 10 or whatever?
It hasn't. The results on the field haven't mattered for his entire career. Like, why would they start mattering now? I mean, he could throw for 127 yards and 2 interceptions, and it would be like, well, he might have went from 3 to 2 there. Because did you see that the read that he made on that little blitz? Like, apparently he's good. I did read into it because we've made fun of Will Levis. I mean, me and you both have. It's baffled us a bit, right? Apparently, some scouts do feel that he's really good against the blitz, and he's good at throwing into tight windows against that. And apparently that translates really well. I mean, of course, sure. It translates really well to the NFL, and he has good arm strength. I mean, it's no joke. And he's tall. I kind of understand that. It's just, I've watched Will Levis. I've watched him personally play. Like nothing about him has impressed me. Whatever. Maybe he'll be like Josh Allen. I guess that's what they're telling us. Like
that's what everyone's looking for now, is kind of that guy with all the tools who didn't play all that great in college, but has the tools and he puts it together. There's just not a lot of examples outside of Josh Allen of that working out.
Patrick Mahomes, if you're like, other than Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen,
but Mahomes had like great numbers in college.
Well, fair, no, I know. Well, Josh Allen didn't have bad ones either. Will Levis has terrible numbers, and you can't tell me that it's always his receivers. He actually has had some pretty decent receivers and running backs as well. Anyway, enough on Will Levis.
Well, I would just like to say, I know we're a college football podcast. Just very briefly, I'm a Colts fan. I am
No.
absolutely terrified that we are going to draft Will Levis because we're going to pick kind of in that 4 to 10 range.
Yeah, that's where he's going.
And
Yeah.
Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are going to be gone. So he'll be the top guy on the board, supposedly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just terrified. Anyway, that was free. That's not
Well-
part of the college football pod. Well, go ahead. You have more thoughts on that?
Just one more point. As again, college football fan that's been watching, Bryce Young is so much better than the other quarterbacks in this class.
Yeah.
For me, there's a large gap. I understand that you're like, well, like it's CJ and Bryce and CJ. No, it's Bryce and then a long gap and then the other guys. He's so much better. Like I really do think that. I know it doesn't always translate. I understand there's certain things that don't translate, and Bryce Young's a little bit small. For me, he's that guy. Like you can't have watched him play the last 2 years and tell me that anyone's better than him right now. So if you're the Colts, trade up. Like I would be trying to get Bryce.
That's the problem. Is the Houston Texans are going to have the #1 pick, and there's no way the Texans will not take Bryce Young. Or I guess maybe they're dumb and they'll take CJ Stroud. But hey, we'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, back to college football. That was 9 bowl games for you. What is your last bowl game that you will choose? And I'll throw out some of the options out here. You have Cincinnati, Louisville with the whole Scott Satterfield thing. Florida, Oregon State, Wisconsin, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Florida State, Tulane, USC, LSU, Purdue. Those are kind of the ones that are probably the most well known. Are there others that are on your watch list, or is it one of those for your final pick?
No, it's one of those. LSU Purdue would have gotten the nod, but like with Jeff Brom leaving, it's like, do I really still care? Like maybe I don't as much, because like I think LSU, like it has all the signs of LSU in a blowout. Like that should be LSU by a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna finish up with Oklahoma, Florida State. I think Oklahoma needs a win here to feel good going into the offseason. They didn't have a really good year, and Florida State kind of overachieved. What happens there in the Cheez-It Bowl between those two schools, I think, is really big. I think it affects recruiting for both of those programs. How does Venables prepare for a bowl game? A lot of young players for some of these. Like they're just trying to develop. You're seeing a lot of like these bowl practices, just trying to develop guys. I think that's for me the last one. Mm-hmm. It's big names, and that's great. Like 2 big brands, and they're going to have a lot of like. There will be fans will travel like for that game. Who wins that? I think is interesting. Oklahoma, Florida State for me at 10.
Okay, so I've kind of run through mine. You touched on a lot of them. I'll go through kind of in the order that they will happen. I'm going to go ahead and start with Florida, Oregon State, which you did not have on your list, and I understand. I like the name matchup maybe more than the actual matchup. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, you have a Florida team that they're building something, but they're still very much like at the bottom of where they need to be. And then you have Oregon State, who had one of the best years they've had in recent memory. And it's, they're, I don't even know if they're favored or not, but they just feel like the underdog in this type of matchup. And I think this will mean a lot to them. So both programs could really use a good bowl win here. But so to me, it's just a fun matchup more than like a matchup that really means a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Oregon State actually favored by 10 in that game.
Really?
Surprising.
Okay.
Yeah, Oregon State's 10-2 against the spread this year. They're really good. You just bet on them every time you come out a winner. So putting a big number on that one.
Wow, would not have guessed. All right, I also have North Carolina, Oregon. You touched on that a little bit. Interesting matchup. Drake May, he did come out and say that he's staying at North Carolina, which is huge for them. We haven't really talked yet about them losing Phil Longo, their offensive coordinator, to Wisconsin. Maybe we'll mention that later. I'll write that down as a quick note. But I do think that this is a fun matchup. Look forward to seeing that game. I'm also going Texas and Washington. Really like that matchup. Washington kind of sneakily had a great year, which is it's almost bad to say sneakily because they were on the national consciousness, I would say, for the most part, but they were not like in serious playoff contention. And so down the stretch, they kind of like people weren't really paying attention to them. But Michael Penix really balled out, had a great
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Kalen DeBoer, you could argue after Sonny Dykes, like he might have had about the second best
Right.
year of any first year coach. Great hire by them. I'm also going Oklahoma, Florida State. You mentioned that game as well. Two programs that I don't think it's quite fair to say either one of them needs this win. Like it's not that big of a bowl game, but Oklahoma a bad year and they need some proof of concept quickly, I feel like. Florida
Yeah.
State a good year and feels like they could build on it and going into like they could be a top 12 team going into next season, I would say.
Probably will. Yeah,
Yeah,
probably will. Yeah.
absolutely. I also have Notre Dame, South Carolina. Definitely some players skipping this game on both teams. We've
Sure.
already mentioned Drew Pine entered the portal and will not be playing.
Yeah.
Michael Mayer will not be playing in this game. Neither will Isaiah
Okay.
Foskey. And
Okay.
I think there's some question about Spencer Rattler, whether or not he will play in this game. I do think that will make a big difference. Like if he doesn't play, I think I would expect Notre Dame to win fairly comfortably. Tyler Buckner, they're saying, will most likely be the starter. He's practicing. I don't think he's full contact, but he is supposed to come back from that injury he experienced in week 2 this season.
Yeah.
If Rattler plays, that's to me when this game gets really interesting and could just be a lot of fun. Both teams would really like to win this bowl game. Yeah. I also have we already talked about the Orange Bowl, Tennessee and Clemson. I have Tulane and USC.
Okay.
I actually feel like that could be a really fun quarterback matchup. You have Michael Pratt against Caleb Williams.
Sure.
And that it feels like Tulane can actually challenge USC. USC is definitely a more high-profile team. Just missed out on the playoff. But Tulane had a really good year. They're only a 1.5-point underdog, which tells me Vegas also sees this as almost a toss-up. Could be a lot of fun. Could be pointsy. You wanted a 45-42 game. This could be it right here.
Yeah.
And then for my
agreed.
10th one, sorry, did you have thoughts on that?
No, that was it. Just agreement there. It's the Cotton Bowl. Like you think of Tulane and you see and USC kind of ended on a downer too, right? Like losing the conference championship, not
Yeah.
making the playoff. Feels like both of these teams disappointed. They're actually good football teams. Like both of these teams are just good football teams and should be a good game. Yeah, no, I agree there. Tulane, if they could win that is massive just for their program. Yeah.
Oh
huge.
yeah. Yep. My last one is Penn State Utah. You also had that game. Fun matchup. I don't know that we'll learn just a ton like going forward, but it's just the type of game that you enjoy watching. So I think that'll be a good one. Okay, so the Heisman was decided, and kind of like we both thought, Caleb Williams was the winner. Voting, Max Duggan was second, CJ Stroud third, and Stetson Bennett fourth. Any takeaways from you?
No, not really. That's kind of what we knew, and it's kind of a down year for the Heisman. I think we can go ahead and say that Caleb Williams is very talented, no question. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to fight you on that one. But this is not Joe Burrow of 2019. Like this isn't even like Baker Mayfield, or Kyler Murray rather, from like past Lincoln Riley quarterbacks. It's kind of a down. There wasn't maybe the depth that there wasn't the depth that we were used to in certain years. And even though we have really good quarterback play, the stats aren't what they were. It feels like offenses maybe slowed down a little bit. So we're not seeing just like those eye-popping numbers of 60 touchdowns or whatever it was that Joe Burrow threw for. So I think the right four got invited. I mean, they were the top 4 vote getters. Like they finished 1 through 4. So I'm like, there's no argument with that. But I don't know. I think in other years it could have been better. I'll just say that it could have been better.
Okay, I don't know that I completely agree with you, and let me throw this hypothetical at you. Let's just say, and I know we're talking about the Heisman, which is different than the NFL draft. But let me throw this hypothetical at you. Let's say Bryce Young and CJ Stroud stayed in college one more year.
Yes. No.
Who do you think the top four quarterbacks would be off the draft boards next year, and in what
Yeah.
order?
Probably Bryce, then Caleb, and then
Okay.
CJ Stroud. Yeah, no, I look, I'm with you. Don't have to sell me on the Bryce Young talk. I would have been all in for Bryce repeating. But the
Yeah.
Heisman, they're a bunch of old guys that vote. They're never going to let a guy win twice. Since what the Ohio State running back did, Griffin. So like they're just not gonna. Yeah, that's just not something that's gonna happen. So like for Bryce Young is the best single player in college football, but that's not what this award is. Like
Right.
that's not what this one is right now. And whether that's fortunate or unfortunate, like that's a different topic. But for the Heisman and for the Heisman conversation that we have, like for me, the guy won it that we all thought was going to win. So like,
Yeah.
again, you don't have to buy me in on the Bryce Young train. I'm already
Well,
on that.
see, I might actually zag on you just a little bit. I feel like if that scenario played out, based on what I think NFL teams are looking for, I think the NFL draft would go Caleb Williams, Drake May,
Um,
Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. Not that Bryce Young is worse than Caleb Williams and Drake May,
yeah,
but those guys have a little more prototypical size, and I feel like
yeah.
could theoretically be considered more talented. That said, like Bryce Young is an excellent player, and is probably the best quarterback in college football.
So like what you're saying is that like Patrick Mahomes should have won a Heisman Trophy at Texas Tech,
No,
but
I'm not.
by that metric though.
No, I'm not saying Bryce Young should win it. I just think it's an interesting thought exercise. Like
Yes, no, I agree.
because you were kind of saying like Caleb Williams feels like a bit of a down year. I actually feel like he'll be the number one pick in the NFL draft. So maybe he didn't have as great of a year as some of the previous Heisman winners, but I think we're still talking about really good talent. If that makes sense.
No, correct. Yeah, the arm talent has not gotten worse. That's not what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
just like game flow has changed. I think, and part of it was like, I mean, 2019 LSU kind of ruined it for everyone. Like that's just an
Yeah,
anomaly.
true.
Like you don't have Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Terrence Marshall and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like you had all those guys and Joe Burrow and a good offensive line, and then you went and did what you did. Like
Thaddeus
it kind
Moss.
of right. You don't even think about Randy Moss's son in that. It was ridiculous, like the talent that was on that team, especially that offense. So yeah, like you can't compare it to 2019 LSU. That's not fair. But like I think game flow has slowed down a little bit. Defenses have gotten better too. Defenses they've adjusted as a whole to some of the new like just new trends that the offense has had, and like they were ahead. So stats are a little lower, and that's fine. I think that's good. That's healthy. Football's cyclical, and everything has its cycle, and it just everything takes its turn. But the arm talent is by no means getting less. Like that's not what I'm saying at all. And I'm a Bryce Young guy, and I still think if you can't tell me that he's better than Drake May. Like he should be a better pro than Caleb Williams and Drake May and CJ Stroud and Will Levis and whoever else you want to throw in there. He's better than them. Like I watched it, and it kind of makes me a little bit upset because in the NFL, he may not, depending what system he gets in, he might not be, just depending how it works out. And it's going to be such a bummer because like for those of us that watched him like almost every game that he played in college, the dude's special. Like he's absolutely special. And if there wasn't a bias against him, he could have easily won the Heisman 2 times. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about another award. I thought we should talk about this one because you're a Georgia fan and I'm a Notre Dame fan.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Mackey Award. Now,
Sure.
I think we will both agree that 1 year ago, both of our tight ends, Michael Mayer for Notre Dame and Brock Bowers for Georgia, who were not even finalists. Like they weren't even finalists last year, and that was complete crap. Like they both got snubbed. I will argue that true freshman Brock Bowers absolutely should have won the Mackey last year.
Okay.
And I think Michael Mayer should have been a finalist.
Okay.
Now, you could argue they corrected that mistake this year. Brock Bowers wins the Mackey. I don't think it's an egregious mistake. I do disagree with it slightly. And I want you to tell me why I'm wrong.
If you're looking at it from just a receiving number stat, then no, I would agree with you. You're right. The total yards and total touchdowns they're almost identical. They have both of them have 9 touchdowns. Brock Bowers had 819 yards, and Mayer with only 10 less. He had 900 or 809 yards. So like almost identical stat lines there. Mayer had more catches, but then like a lower average. So like Brock in theory was the more like the home run hitter. Like he had a couple 75-yard touchdowns that kind of blew his stats up a little bit. No, you're splitting hairs for me. Sure. One's going to be the number 1 overall tight end this year, and the other one's going to be the number 1 overall tight end next year. I don't think. Yeah, like
in the draft. Yeah,
in the draft, I'm saying yes, correct. And no, I have no issue if Mayer went ahead and won. That's fine. That's great. By the way, he was listed as an All-American. First team, and Brock was second team. So yeah, I don't know. Hey, you can be upset about it. That's fine.
I'm not that upset. I just think
he was robbed. Brock Bowers was robbed of it last year.
Yes,
because
he was.
I think he was even better last year. So yeah, whatever. If you get upset at these awards, it's a bunch of old guys that I'm pretty convinced don't watch every game.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Yeah, like if you get mad about these awards, like I can't help you. Like you just have to understand that. Okay, look at it. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. To go back to the Heisman just for a little bit, all the Clemson quarterbacks, we had years of Deshaun Watson and years of Trevor Lawrence. Neither of those guys won a Heisman Trophy.
Yeah,
they were the best player. Like Trevor Lawrence in his freshman year could have won it had he played all year. Like he had multiple Heisman level years, and so did Deshaun Watson. So like what are we saying here? You know what I'm saying? Like I guess that's my point. You have a lot of guys that aren't watching that vote. That's the truth. That's the truth of the matter. They're not watching all these games. So just at least Mayer was invited. You can at least look at the bright side. He got invited this year. That's a positive, right?
I think Notre Dame fans probably took it a little harder because last year he wasn't even invited, and it felt like he should have absolutely been a finalist. And then this year, he was their offense for large chunks of the season. There were multiple times where it was like Drew Pine predetermined, I'm going to throw to Michael Mayer, even if there's 3 defenders on him, and he still caught it. And yeah, I don't know. I think there's probably more frustration because it felt like he got robbed a year ago too. And you could say the same thing about Georgia fans with Brock Bowers. He definitely got robbed last year as a true freshman who had, probably the best, at least the best true freshman season we've ever seen from a tight end. Maybe the best season we've seen from a tight end. Just purely statistically. I think it was very close. I hate when you see these things like, oh, it's got to be this guy. It's not even close.
Right.
It's close. They're both really freaking good.
We're splitting hairs.
Yeah. I did see some of the comments online. Georgia has 2 tight ends better than Michael Mayer.
Did anyone say that? I will say
I did see
Darnell Washington. He's not going to Mayer will go as the number 1 tight end in this draft, probably, at least
Washington
if he tests well at the combine. But Darnell Washington will probably be 2 or 3, depending on how they test. Like the combine's weird, man. It's like like it jacks up all the draft boards, but. Like that's projected right now is that it'll probably be Mayer and then Washington not long after. So yeah, these are all really, really good players. And we can just agree that the bum who won last year did not deserve to win. I think we can just Georgia and Notre Dame fans can just shake hands on that one. That it should have been one of these 2 guys. Maybe Mayer wins last year, Brock wins this year. Like we take turns for the thing.
There you go. Yeah. They'll both make millions of dollars in their NFL careers and they'll both be okay.
Right. They'll be fine. Yeah.
They'll be fine. All right. I mentioned Phil Longo a little bit earlier. So Wisconsin hires Phil Longo away from North Carolina as offensive coordinator, which is definitely a departure from what we know Wisconsin to be. They're kind of that ground and pound, heavy personnel. Like their receivers aren't very good. And then you have North Carolina, and Phil Longo is known for running a variation of kind of the air raid, and not that they only passed the ball. Like in previous years, they had Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, and they ran the ball a lot. They had 2,000-yard rushers in the same season. Yeah. But it is an air raid style system. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on this from just the viewpoint of like, is this Wisconsin getting away from what they do? And is that a bad thing, or is this a really good thing? What do you think?
To the Wisconsin fans out there, the guy that you have coming to you was the offensive coordinator at North Carolina. These are the point totals: 41, 42, 45, 56, and 63. points. Those were their five highest point games. Of this past year. You want to talk about a change of system? Like, that's shocking. That is a shocking amount of change. That's all I could think about is, like, can you imagine? Our buddy Graham Mertz immediately transfers out. Like, of course he does. Yeah. Like, that's not even fitting. Was there any chance that Drake May was going to try to follow him along? I know he didn't. And it's since been confirmed that he hasn't. But was there ever a thought that, like, like maybe Fickle's just going to try to absolutely run the air raid and just blow up, like, all we think of Wisconsin offense?
I think that was what they were hoping for to some extent. That said, like, Drake May was at one point committed to Alabama and chose North Carolina over them. I think he really wants to play at North Carolina. I think he is a North Carolina fan, and it's not about the money for him or anything like that. I think he really is a North Carolina guy. So I don't think there was ever a huge chance he would actually do it. I'm pretty sure they wanted that to happen. That said, for my opinion, this is a really good hire, and you'll take Phil Longo with or without Drake May. I do think we just talked last week about Iowa being the favorite in the Big Ten West next year because they got a decent quarterback, Dave McNamara.
Right, sure.
If Wisconsin finds a decent quarterback, they might take that title right away from Iowa because, I mean, you talk about a great head coaching hire and then a great offense coordinator hire. Wisconsin is trying to elevate their program. As a Notre Dame fan, and tell me I'm wrong, but in my opinion, Notre Dame is a clear step up from Wisconsin, just from what they should be able to do. Like the kind of spending power they have and the leverage they have in the sport. I don't think that's a stretch to say Notre Dame is a step above Wisconsin. I would be very thrilled to have Phil Longo as the offense coordinator at Notre Dame. So the fact that Wisconsin went and got him is just a testament to my opinion, what is a great hire. They might not have the receivers for it right now, but they'll get him. They'll figure it out. And the fact that he has had those 2,000-yard rushers in the same season, like he's not – I don't know that you could go to Wisconsin and run Mike Leach's offense. And we'll talk about more about him later. But, like, I don't think you could run, like, just a pure all-out passing attack 80% of the time from day one at Wisconsin. But with what he does, the fact that he'll spread defenses out and then run the ball, like, please give me more of that. that is brilliant. I think this is an excellent hire.
How upset were you? Just that made you, like, you had kind of resigned to the fact that it's probably going to be Tommy Rees, like, he's probably going to stay here, and then seeing that guy go to Wisconsin, which is kind of like, that's your territory. Like, that's a guy, like, that's our little brother. Like, they went and made a better hire. What? Like, is there any jealousy at all, or how much?
Maybe just a little. I would be a lot more upset if he had gone to a Michigan or something like that, where it was more of a recruiting rival.
Okay.
Notre Dame recruits against Wisconsin a little bit.
Yeah.
Not a ton. Wisconsin, and that might change under Luke Fickell, so I could be wrong. Yeah. Maybe they become that next Michigan, Penn State style of program.
Sure.
As of right now, like, I think it, in kind of a similar way to Ohio State, probably being relatively comfortable with the thought of Luke Fickell going to Wisconsin because they feel like they can still pull away from Wisconsin, like, if they ever need to go to Luke Fickell because Ryan Day got fired or left the NFL. Okay. I do think, like, if Notre Dame really wanted Phil Longo 2 years from now, they could probably go get him. So it's not the worst thing in the world. I do think that if you are Iowa or Nebraska or even Penn State, like
Purdue,
Purdue, this has to suck.
Yeah, no, I agree. Wisconsin has the most resources of anyone in the West, right? Yeah. Like in that region over there, kind of the people they compete with. And it does feel like that's a home run hire. That's a great hire. And we actually kind of got him for cheap. And a really good job by Fickell too. That's a really good opening move from a coach making a statement hire. Fickell's a defensive guy. And I mean, famously, right, to come get a guy that's putting up a lot of points in the ACC and is a quarterback, kind of a guru. I mean, you can kind of give him that title after what happened with Drake May. So yeah, you love that hire if you're from Wisconsin. That it's something where 3-4 years from now you look back and it's like that accounted to more wins for us, like directly. Like that single hire there gave us a couple extra wins per year.
Yeah, absolutely. Any chance that, so you've probably seen the rumors, Texas A&M is considering Bobby Petrino for offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Will it happen?
You couldn't have a more unlikable coaching staff if he goes there. Like, can you imagine? I mean, holy cow. Like, me and you are both of the opinion that there's no way that Jimbo gives up play calling. Like that's what he does.
Yeah,
He's not probably not going to give up play calling. I just, there's so many better options. Go get Garrett Riley. He's right down the road in
yeah.
your state already. Like, go get him. I don't. Why would you bring in Petrino? I don't understand. You can't tell me money's the issue either.
It feels like Garrett Riley has probably told because we have heard nothing about him going anywhere.
I
I
know.
feel like he's probably told people, talk to me after the playoff. Like that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe
Yeah.
A&M is just not willing to wait. That's a little bit what happened with like Notre Dame last year when they hired Marcus Freeman, didn't even interview Luke Fickell. Fickell
Yeah.
wanted to wait till after the playoff, and Notre Dame was like, no, we got our guy right here. We'll just go ahead and do
Yeah.
it right now.
Mm.
So I wonder if maybe A&M is not willing to wait. I mean, National Signing Day is before the playoff.
Yeah.
Now, they don't
Right.
exactly have
Yeah.
a world-beating class at this point, so I don't know why it's that big of a deal. I think you just need to hire the best guy.
Yeah.
I do think, and I've heard this is not an original thought with me. The idea out there, there's an idea out there that Bobby Petrino might be the type of personality that could tell Jimbo to just bug off, let me call the freaking plays. Like when he's in the middle of the game and Jimbo wants to take over, it's like, no, leave me alone. I'm calling the plays. And maybe that's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, you got DJ Durkin on that staff. You got Steve Adazio. Like it's not the most likable staff.
You think?
um, but that's not how they get players at Texas A&M. They have
Mm.
other means. So
Fair enough.
as long as
Yeah, I
they are
guess.
good at the coaching aspect, I guess if he figures out how to run the offense properly, and I tend to think he would do an okay job. Like it might not be that bad of a hire, I guess.
Well, he hasn't been hired yet. Like this is
Right.
still theoretical.
Very theoretical.
Yeah, no, I guess if I was Garrett Riley and we were in the middle of a game and Jimbo's trying to come tell me how to call plays, it would just be a fairly simple response from me. And that's like, how many points did you put up against these guys last year? And probably it was going to be like, well, we put up 10, So, okay, now go
Yeah.
away. You worry about something, go recruit some more players. I'm going to call the plays and we're going to put up more than 10 points this year. I guess that's, yeah. Like there, well, like at what point do results not matter?
Right.
I guess like with A&M, like they have so many problems going on, and then like Ruben Owens, like the number one overall running back, flips from TCU and suddenly he's going to A&M, which I'm sure he got a lot of money to do so. But like dude, have you seen that offense? Like, why would you want to go there? What about that makes you want to go to College Station? I won't understand.
By the way, I just saw this on Twitter. This is not a confirmed report. It's not a check mark or anything. It just says Football Scoop claims that Garrett Riley turned down a 3-year, $6 million offer from A&M. So that'd be $2 million a year, which would be kind of at the top of the sport for coordinators.
Yeah, it is.
I would imagine that would be either A, him saying I want full control of the offense, or B, I would maybe get a head coaching job, which I think could possibly happen for him. I don't know.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's $2 million a year would put him as one of the top assistants in the country. Yeah, and he would be paid as one of the top coordinators. Yeah, maybe he just doesn't want to have to deal with all that. He can go somewhere else and put up. Yeah, it's maybe easier for him other places.
Yeah. Now, watch. As soon as we're done recording, he'll agree to a term with A&M. So terms with A&M.
Okay.
I don't know. It's the silly season when there's just rumors flying everywhere about coaches. So
yep, fair.
All right. Recruiting talk. So Keon Keeley, the number one edge in the country, was committed to Notre Dame for over a year, has now committed to Alabama, which I think was it you that said today that apparently the recruits haven't caught on yet that Bama is washed.
Yeah.
This feels like, I don't know. I'm not sure what it feels like. What does it feel like to you?
Yeah, and Alabama went 10-2. It was one of their worst regular seasons since Saban's been there. Like, I mean, it really is. You think about regular seasons that he didn't even win the West. And I mean, this one's one of the worst regular seasons, and he's going to have the top class in the country. It's not going to be particularly close. Georgia will be a distant second, unless someone flip, like unless something unforeseen happens in the next week and a half. But I mean, probably not. So yeah, like he's going to stack a number one class on top of that, and that's really the best way to make all the noise go. Like, hey, yeah, number one class, like deal with it. Like we're going to be really good for another 4 years minimum. Like we're going to be just fine here. And yeah, we're losing Bryce Young, but we got a couple of 5-stars sitting there waiting. Like that's kind of the thing. That, like, yeah, you would like Alabama to fold and go away, but like, did you think it was going to be easy breaking up a dynasty? Like somehow we must have thought it was going to be easy for, just to make that happen. Saban's still Saban. He's the best to ever do it. And he has decided that he's not done yet. Apparently he wants to win a couple more championships, and he probably will. Like he probably is going to. So the first, when you know Alabama has real struggles is when they're recruiting 10 or below. Like once they drop out of the top 5, top 10 in recruiting, then you know, like, okay, he's lost his fastball. Saban's finally lost his fastball. He's got it. Saban still has his fastball. Like when he can go and flip whoever he wants to do, I'm like, that may not be comfortable for people to hear. It's probably not what you want to hear. Alabama's going to be good for a long time yet.
Yeah. Just in the last 2 weeks, the top 2 pass rushers in the country committed to Georgia and Alabama. The more things change, the more they stay the same. All right, we're just going to wrap this up just talking about Mike Leach just a little bit. So Mike Leach, the Mississippi State head coach, it's reported that he had a massive heart attack and is in very serious condition. Holding on at this point, as far as we know, but there's definitely some talk that he might be on his deathbed. So rough, very rough. Obviously, I would say we'll probably save any talk about where does Mississippi State go from here, like till later. Just hoping that maybe he miraculously pulls it out. So yeah, keep Mike Leach in your prayers. Sucks to see that happen. And I think he's a guy that we've both kind of just enjoyed, like watching him coach over the years. Like he's been a fun guy, has a fun offense, fun personality.
Golden press conferences too. Like this guy's a wonderful quote, no doubt. Hope he makes a full recovery, and we'll see. Yeah, if he coaches, I don't even know what that even means yet. I didn't realize it was that serious until I think earlier today. When it was like no, he probably won't be coaching this year. It was like, well, like, okay, like this is actually pretty bad then. Like I didn't really realize until then. But apparently a fairly large heart attack.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before we wrap this up?
No, I think that's it. I think that's it for me. It's going to be we'll have next week's pod, and then it'll be signing day next Wednesday. So early signing day will be next Wednesday. That's right on us. There's not that many uncommitted recruits, like most of the action's in the portal right now. So recruiting, there might be some flips and stuff. And I mean, Lord knows what the portal has like 1,500 players in it at this point. Oh, did you see Grayson McCall, the quarterback for Coastal, is in the portal? Hey, that's you guys. That has you guys written all over right there.
I wouldn't hate it.
I think so. Either that or Wisconsin with that offense. Like imagine like Grayson McCall, little dual threat. Partner with some of their running backs they got up there. That'd be fun. So this is interesting times. I don't. Do you expect anything from early signing day? Any surprises? Most of the players are committed. Almost all the players are currently committed.
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything major. I am curious to see what like Deion Sanders at Colorado, like what can he do? He did just flip a 4-star running back from Notre Dame, which I guess he coached him when he was like a kid or something, and knows his dad very well. So I don't know how much that has to do with like the incredible recruiting job he's doing last minute. It's more just a personal thing. Like it sounds like he probably would have flipped wherever Deion went if he was going to a Power 5 school.
I got you.
So I am curious if there's other flips he can pull off. It does feel like he'll be a thorn in the side of many programs going forward. So that probably starts mostly next year, but maybe he flips a few more guys. But other than that, I'll be interested to see what the final rankings are, like team rankings. But it looks like we're going to have Alabama at number 1. Georgia will be number 2, and then 3 to 8 could be pretty tight. Like there's going to be, it does feel like it's not parity, but it does feel like from a recruiting standpoint, we might have 8 teams where we used to have 4, something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, there's a lot. Well, like with USC getting some top guys, Texas is recruiting well. Miami is still recruiting well. Like Oregon has some couple of 5 stars committed. No, like I agree. There's it maybe a little bit more parity here. Oklahoma still recruiting well, which is kind of surprising. But yeah, there's a lot of depth there. I do agree with you. A lot of depth, kind of right there. You have Alabama, Georgia, and then a drop, right? But then there's a lot of depth from there to 3 to 10.
Yeah, there's big talk that 6-6 Oklahoma could flip 5-star safety Peyton Bowen from Notre Dame, which would just feel really weird, but could happen. We'll see. There's mixed reports on both sides of that, so we won't really know until National Signing Day, and I'm sure there's more stories like that, though that's just one that I'm familiar with, obviously, as a fan of Notre Dame. Okay, let's wrap this up. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Have a great week, and God bless you all.